The Theater of Blood is arguably the most difficult content in all of old school RuneScape. The barrier to entry is high and the skill ceiling is even higher. With the combination of mechanics, punishing deaths, precise timing, and required teamwork, it is no wonder why completions are so difficult. So today, we are going to discuss how to achieve consistent and clean hard mode TOB KC. A disclaimer before this video starts. Most tips in this video are going to be aimed at Verzik, seeing as Verzik is the most difficult room and typically the bottleneck to achieving KC. Not having essential skill sets down before attempting hard mode TOB will only compound the difficulty. So a free bonus tip before this video even starts is to return to regular TOB. Master the basics. This includes your scythe walking, adequate tanking, and entering webs on a consistent basis. A recurring theme throughout this video will be a trade-off of efficiency for a smoother process. However, one could argue wiping is the most inefficient outcome for a team, so you need to decide the balance of speed versus playing it safe to confirm KC. For Maiden, you need to focus on two things. Blood spawns near Maiden should be frozen immediately, and crabs should be fully killed. Ignoring these two practices will lead to a room full of blood and Maiden attacking at a blowpipe speed. Not actually, but you get the point. Remember, in hard mode, blood trails do not despawn, and each crab that reaches Maiden will increase her attack speed. Maiden should not be a difficult room, given the mages are catching the freezes and players are not taking a bath in blood. Make sure you understand proper defense reduction so that skipping goes swimmingly. The saying bloat deaths don't count is in the Hall of Fame of quotes. Bloat in hard mode is typically a disaster. There are a few important considerations when approaching Bloat. His defense will return to normal following the first down. You will miss ticks due to the constant falling of feet. A 2 down will be considerably more difficult, and dying may impact your inventory at Verzik. That being said, what do I suggest? Play safe and play for the 3 down unless Bloat is sub 40% HP. Because Bloat's defense regenerates, this will require an additional 6 tick BGS spec on his second down. That's 50% spec that could have been used for an 80 plus scythe swing or even a higher DPS claw spec. The reason I state this is because it tightens the gap of getting a 2 down, and when players are missing ticks trying to dodge feet, this becomes even less likely. The takeaway is to play safe. Go for the 3 down. Let's transition to Nylos. Remember when I said return to regular TOB and master the basics? This statement is evident at Nylos. This room is sometimes a hurdle for teams because they lack the experience from regular TOB. Important skill sets in this room include knowing double spawns for your role and aggros. Knowing pre-fires is of course advantageous but not required. I recommend a 4-man team to learn Nylo and quite frankly, all of hard mode TOB. Let's talk about the demi-boss. Players often switch gear way too early in efforts to make sure they don't miss their 2 attacks. This however often leads to standing around when Nylo should be killed. A better approach is to swap your prayers early and swap your gear as soon as you see the demi appear. There is a large window for error. You have around 3 to 5 ticks to swap your gear and click. Another important note is to not attack the demi with mage unless it is close to dead. A better use of your time is to wait for the demi to swap to range or melee due to the large difference in DPS for the scythe and T-bow. An even better strategy is to wait for the demi to switch to your style. A ranger with full void and potted is going to do more DPS than a major doing a one-way T-bow switch. When it comes to the Nylo King, keep it simple. Move first, swap prayers, and then swap gear. Don't worry about offensive prayers until you are more comfortable with the mechanics, and reduce switches if you are PKing yourself or teammates. Now, I sometimes see low KC teams struggle with the maze portion of Sotetseg. This also relates back to regular TOB. If you don't know what diagonals or L movements are, I've linked a maze trainer in the description so you don't look like an absolute buffoon. Spend some time on this and you should be good. If a team gets a suboptimal maze and players aren't moving efficiently, you might get clapped. If you are not chosen to run the maze, waiting until a portion of the maze has been ran can help secure safety. From my experience with running low KC teams, this room usually is not a problem. I love Xarpus. In hard mode, Xarpus is unarguably easier than normal TOB. Exhumes have less tiles to spawn on, defense is reduced from 250 to 200, and you get to AFK post Screech. Make sure you follow typical defense reducing. 2 or 3 players should maul, followed by mages BGSing until 0 defense. If you are mauling twice while players are BGSing, it's a little embarrassing. But remember, we are not laughing with you, we are laughing at you. A good Verzik actually starts at the Sotetseg chest. Too often I see an inventory of 6 brews and 1 shark. Verzik is not a fight of longevity. I will die on this hill. New players often die from getting stacked out rather than running out of supplies. It is not rare to see a team wipe with brews on the ground. So instead of having a brew heavy setup, opt for 4 brews and the rest sharks. Double eats are incredibly useful. I will cover this later. Now, if you have an iota of TOB knowledge, there is nothing to cover at P1. So let's move on to P2. The most important thing at P2 is to avoid low HP. This isn't rocket science. There are multiple ways to get stacked out during P2, and staying above 70 HP will drastically reduce the chances of this happening. Beginners sometimes try to camp low HP, waiting for Blood Fury heals. This is a horrible idea. Unlike P3, there is no punishing mechanic for camping high HP, so camp 70 plus. Crabs in hard mode hit like a truck. After spawning, stop attacking Verzik and take care of them immediately. Getting kicked by Verzik with crabs roaming is a free teleport to Lumbee. In addition to this, avoid dragging crabs under Verzik. This applies to both P2 and P3. In larger scales, more crabs can spawn and this may not be preventable. But since you are staying above 70 HP, you should survive. P3 Verzik is where the majority of teams wipe. It becomes hectic and people lose focus on what is important. In general, contrary to P2, you do not want to camp high HP. Camping 99 HP and tanking tornadoes will lead to your demise. Luckily, you have multiple combo eats, so throughout P3, camp around 60 HP. Now let's go through P3 Verzik in order of her specials. The first round of crabs are quite simple. Much like regular TOB, these need to be popped before webs. I do not need to elaborate. Webs is one of the most important mechanics of hard mode TOB. An axiom of mine is a team that makes it to second webs is a team that gets KC. Let's not get ahead of ourselves though. Communicate if you guys are going to proc enraged phase or not. I recommend learners wait. If you do not, then I advise you to drag your tornado away from your quadrant before yellows even spawn. Trading a scythe hit or 2 in order to guarantee a smooth yellows is worth it. Remember, KC comes at a cost of efficiency for learners. If you have lots of experience with yellows, you can skip this. Following yellows, you need to prepare for Verzik's Ball of Death. Combo eats are so important here. In a perfect world, the green ball is passed to a high HP teammate and not the tank. But in reality, anything can happen, so prepare for the worst. It is your responsibility to pass the ball. Do not expect teammates to run towards you. The mind of a low KC player is in survival mode. They are not thinking about what you need. This being said, a teammate may pass you the ball when you have only 20 HP. You will still have ample time to combo eat twice and survive this. Ideally, you only have to deal with the green ball once. And one of the best ways to assure this is to make it to second webs. After the green ball, Verzik specials will recycle. This is a good thing because after crabs you get another webs. I cannot understate how crucial it is to make second webs. I still remember the guy who taught me hard mode TOB. He swore by the importance of always making second webs. Think about the damage you did on your first webs. Even if a player or 2 dies, you can expect 15 to 30% of Verzik's HP. 7 free scythe hits is huge. You will carry your team if you sang the second round of crabs and ping webs for your team. This is your #1 priority. Players always lose track of what's going on, so you are responsible to get your team into webs. Take on the carry. When it comes to making second webs, 90% of the time it is going to be worth it to tank the tornado. So even if you are 80 HP, as long as you are potted, it will be worth it. Another important thing to mention regarding webs is don't ruin it for the rest of us. As soon as you are out of sync, you need to leave. Getting trapped in webs is impending doom. You will tank tornadoes and receive high amounts of damage. At the end of the day, you need to focus on what you can control. A teammate dying P2 is unfortunate, but it will happen. If you follow the advice in this video, there is still a good chance to get KC. In closing, Hardmode TOB is a very different raid from normal TOB. And hear me out on this. There are additional mechanics that require a team to slow down. Permanent blood trails, constantly falling feet, additional Nylo bosses, multiple maze runners, forced popped crabs, a requirement to pass the green ball. All of these will slow you down. So while approaching Hardmode TOB with a mindset of efficiency is not necessarily a bad thing, I like to look at Hardmode TOB as a mechanically heavy raid. There is a lot of finesse that is satisfying and makes the raid enjoyable to me. Good luck out there, and I hope you go dry on everything.